He destroyed my life to protect another woman. I disappeared for 3 years without a word. The day I walked back into the world was the day his empire began to...
My name is Elena Morrison, and if you'd seen me 3 years ago, you would have thought I had it all. Picture this: a black woman who clawed her way up from nothing, standing beside a charismatic white real estate mogul at charity galas where champagne flowed like water and every handshake was worth $1 million. Marcus Ashford was my husband, and we were the kind of power couple that made people stop and stare. Beautiful, successful, untouchable, or so everyone believed. But let me take you back to where it all began. Because every empire built on lies starts with the foundation that looks solid. I grew up in Portland, Oregon, in a hardworking black family that taught me two things. Your word is your bond, and you earn everything you get. No shortcuts, no handouts. I put myself through business school waiting tables and tutoring rich kids who had everything handed to them. I was 24 when I met Marcus at a charity event, and he was 29, confident, impossibly charming. He had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. He came from old money, the kind of family where your great-grandfather's portrait hangs in the country club, but he treated everyone like they mattered. At least, that's what I thought. He pursued me like I was a prize he had to win. Grand gestures, surprise trips, flowers delivered to my office with notes that made my colleagues swoon. 1 year later, we were married in a ceremony that brought together two completely different worlds. My loud, loving family dancing to Motown while his stiff, sophisticated relatives sipped expensive wine and tried to hide their surprise that their golden boy had chosen someone like me. But I didn't care what they thought. I had Marcus, and Marcus had me, and we were going to build something beautiful together. And we did, or at least I thought we did. I became the silent architect behind Ashford Global Properties. While Marcus shook hands and smiled for cameras, I was in the back room crunching numbers, identifying investments, making the deals that transformed his modest firm into a booming empire. He got the magazine covers. I got the satisfaction of knowing we were a team. We dreamed of children, of building a legacy that would outlast us both. But life had other plans. 2 miscarriages. 2 tiny heartbeats that stopped before they could begin. Each loss carved out a piece of me I'd never get back. And between Marcus and me, a silence grew. The kind of silence that feels like distance, even when you're lying in the same bed. But I told myself we were strong. I told myself love could survive anything. I was 31 years old and still believed in fairy tales. That's how naive I was. It was a spring night when my world shattered like glass hitting concrete. I'd just come home from a business dinner, ironically working late to close a deal for Marcus's company, when I saw the red and blue lights painting our driveway. Police officers at my door. For a split second, I thought something had happened to Marcus. Then they said the words that would change everything. Elena Morrison, you're under arrest for assault and breaking and entering. I laughed because it had to be a mistake. But they weren't joking. They said I'd attacked a woman named Vanessa Chen, broken into her apartment and hurt her. Vanessa. I knew that name. She was the executive assistant to Marcus's business partner. Young, beautiful, Asian. The kind of woman who always seemed to be hovering around Marcus at company events, laughing too hard at his jokes. But attack her? I'd been nowhere near her. I told them there was a mistake, that I had witnesses, that I could prove I was at a restaurant across town. They didn't care. They just kept listing evidence like they were reading my death sentence. Security footage showing someone who looked like me entering her building, threatening text messages sent from my phone number, strands of my hair found at the crime scene. None of it made sense. None of it was real. But then came the words that made my blood turn to ice. Ma'am, your husband confirmed you recently discovered his affair with Miss Chen and became extremely upset. Time stopped. The world tilted sideways. Affair? Marcus and Vanessa. But before I could process that betrayal, the detective kept talking, kept destroying me with every word. Marcus had told them I might have done this. My husband, the man who'd vowed to love and protect me, the man I'd built an empire with. He'd looked these officers in the eye and painted me as a violent, jealous monster. That's when I understood. Marcus wasn't just having an affair. He was actively trying to bury me. They took me away in handcuffs, while neighbors watched from their windows. The media got hold of the story within hours. Jealous wife attacks husband's pregnant mistress. That's right. Pregnant. Vanessa was carrying Marcus's child while I was being dragged through hell for crimes I didn't commit. My assets were frozen. I couldn't afford the kind of lawyer who could fight this. And Marcus. He played the devastated husband perfectly, avoiding all contact with me while the prosecution built their case using lies, planted evidence, and a narrative so convincing that even I started wondering if I'd lost my mind. The trial was a nightmare dressed up as justice. They used my miscarriages against me, suggested I was mentally unstable, claimed I couldn't handle seeing another woman pregnant with my husband's baby. And then Marcus took the stand. I'll never forget watching him raise his right hand and swear to tell the truth before lying through his perfect teeth. He described outbursts I never had, threats I never made, a version of me that didn't exist. He even cried. Real tears for the cameras. Something died in me that day. When the jury came back with a guilty verdict and the judge sentenced me to 8 years in state prison, I looked back at Marcus one last time. He couldn't meet my eyes. That's when I knew the man I loved had never really existed at all. They led me away in chains to begin serving time for a crime I didn't commit. My life in ruins, my heart shattered, my future stolen. But here's what Marcus didn't know, what he couldn't possibly have predicted. Prison doesn't just break you. Sometimes, if you're strong enough, if you're angry enough, it forges you into something entirely new, something dangerous. So, let me ask you this. If someone destroyed your life to save themselves, how far would you go to make them pay? The first night in prison, I tried to kill myself. Not dramatically, not with screams or attention. I just sat on the edge of my concrete bunk in that suffocating cell, staring at the bedsheet in my hands, calculating whether the ceiling pipe would hold my weight. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead like insects, and somewhere down the corridor, a woman was sobbing. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Marcus on that witness stand, his hand raised, his lies spilling out smooth as silk. I heard the judge's gavel. Guilty. 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 8 years of my life gone. My reputation destroyed. My heart shattered into so many pieces, I didn't think I'd ever find them all. I sat there in the darkness, holding that sheet, wondering if anyone would even care if Elena Morrison just disappeared from the world entirely. Marcus certainly wouldn't. He'd probably sleep better, knowing I was gone for good. But then a voice cut through the fog of my despair like a blade. You're thinking about him, aren't you? Your husband? I looked up. My cellmate was watching me from the opposite bunk, her eyes sharp, despite the dim light. Her name was Iris, and she was in her late 50s, with gray-streaked hair pulled back tight and the kind of face that had seen too much. I'd learned she was serving time for killing her abusive husband, a man who'd put her in the hospital 3 times before she finally fought back. She'd been watching me spiral for days. saying nothing, just observing with those keen, knowing eyes. I couldn't speak, could barely nod. My throat was too tight, choked with grief and rage, and a pain so deep it felt like drowning. Iris swung her legs off her bunk and stood up, crossing the small space between us in 2 strides. She grabbed the sheet from my hands, not gently, but not violently either, just firmly, like a mother taking a dangerous toy from a child. "Listen to me, girl," she said, her voice low and hard. "Every minute you spend crying over that man is a minute he's still controlling you. Every tear you shed. That's a gift to your enemy. That's power. You're handing him on a silver platter. And he's out there, free, living his best life, while you're in here doing his work for him by destroying yourself." Her words hit me like ice water. I blinked, really seeing her for the first time. "He took everything from you," Iris continued, her eyes boring into mine. "Your freedom, your reputation, your life. Are you really going to give him the satisfaction of taking your spirit too? Your will to fight?" Something flickered in my chest. Something small and hot and angry. "What's left to fight for?" I whispered, my voice broken. "He won. I'm here. He's out there. It's over." Iris's laugh was bitter, sharp. "Baby, it's only over when you decide it is. You think these walls mean you're powerless? You think a cage makes you helpless?" She leaned in close, her voice dropping to barely a whisper. "Some of the most dangerous women I've ever met are right here in this prison. Women who've been underestimated their whole lives. Women who've learned to survive in places that would break lesser people. And you know what? Every single one of them had to make a choice. Die slowly on the inside, or find a way to become something the world never expected." I stared at her, that small flicker in my chest growing warmer, brighter. "So what's it going to be, Elena Morrison?" Iris asked. "Are you going to lie down and die? Or are you going to get angry? Are you going to fight?" That night, lying on my bunk after Iris had gone to sleep, I made a decision. I didn't want to die. I wanted justice. I wanted my life back. And more than anything, I wanted Marcus and Vanessa to pay for what they'd done to me. But sitting in that cell, with no money, no lawyer, no power, and a guilty verdict hanging over my head like a tombstone, I had no idea how that was even possible. I just knew I had to try. The thing about prison is that it's its own ecosystem, a world within a world with its own rules, its own power structures, its own currency of favors and information and respect. I was new, vulnerable, a former wealthy woman now wearing the same jumpsuit as everyone else. I had to learn fast, or I'd be eaten alive. Iris became my guide, teaching me the unspoken codes. Don't show weakness. Don't trust anyone completely. Keep your mouth shut and your eyes open. Find your people and protect them fiercely and slowly, carefully. I did find my people. It started in the prison library, of all places. I was there trying to research legal precedents, desperately searching for some loophole, some way to appeal my case, when I noticed a woman watching me. She was younger than me, maybe late 20s, with dark skin and intelligent eyes that missed nothing. After 3 days of silent observation, she finally approached. "You're wasting your time with those books," she said, her accent crisp and precise. "The legal system already failed you. You need something else." I looked up, wary. "And what would that be?" She smiled slightly. "The truth. Actual evidence. Things the jury never saw because someone made sure they didn't." She extended her hand, My name is Samira. I was a senior accountant at a major firm until my boss framed me for embezzlement to cover his own theft. I know what it's like to be set up by someone you trusted. That's how it began. Samira became the second member of what would eventually become my lifeline, my team, my sisterhood. She understood numbers, money trails, how to follow financial breadcrumbs that people thought they'd hidden. She looked at my case with fresh eyes and immediately saw what I'd been too devastated to see clearly. The evidence against me was too perfect, too convenient, too clean. Nobody's that stupid, Samira said, spreading out the details of my case that I'd managed to get copies of. If you were really going to attack this woman in a jealous rage, you wouldn't send threatening texts from your own phone. You wouldn't leave your hair at the scene. You wouldn't let security cameras catch you. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was a setup. And whoever did it wanted to make absolutely sure you went down for it. Her words ignited something in me. Hope. Dangerous, painful hope. But how do we prove it? I asked. I'm in here. I have no resources. No access to anything. Samira's smile was sly. You'd be surprised what you can access from inside these walls if you know the right people. Over the next few weeks, our circle grew. Iris introduced me to Bex, a former private investigator who'd crossed ethical lines to help an abuse victim and ended up behind bars for it. Bex was tough, street smart, with connections on the outside that she'd carefully maintained. She knew how to dig up dirt, how to find people who didn't want to be found, how to pressure witnesses into telling the truth. Then came Jade. Young, brilliant, serving time for cybercrime after she'd hacked into a corporation to expose their environmental violations. She had skills that seemed almost magical to me. She could navigate digital systems, crack passwords, find information that people thought they'd deleted forever. The problem was that in prison, she had no access to computers. But that's where things got interesting. And dangerous? There's a guard, Jade said one day during our secret meeting in the laundry room, where the noise of machines covered our conversations. Guard Patterson. She's sympathetic to women who've been screwed over by men. Her daughter was in an abusive relationship. I think she might help us. Help us how? I asked, my heart starting to pound. Jade's eyes gleamed. Get us a phone. Just a basic smartphone contraband, something I can use to access the internet. If I can get online, even for a few hours at a time, I can start digging. I can find things. It was risky, incredibly risky. Getting caught with contraband could add years to our sentences. But what choice did I have? The legal system had failed me. My public defender had been overwhelmed and ineffective. If I wanted justice, I'd have to take it into my own hands. Rules be damned. Do it, I said. Whatever it takes. 2 weeks later, Jade slipped me a note during dinner. 2 words. We're in. That night, hidden in our cell with Iris standing guard, Jade showed me the smartphone she'd acquired. It was old, basic, but it had internet access. And in Jade's hands, it was a weapon. Tell me everything you know about Vanessa Chen, Jade said, her fingers already moving across the screen with practiced efficiency. Email addresses, social media accounts, anything. I told her everything I could remember. Vanessa's professional email, her Instagram handle, the cloud storage service Marcus's company used, things I'd observed during the brief time I'd known her. Back when I thought she was just another employee, not the woman who'd conspired to destroy my life. What Jade found in those first few hours of searching made my blood run cold. She's not very smart about digital security, Jade murmured, her face illuminated by the phone's glow. She used the same password for multiple accounts. And she never deleted her browser history or her draft emails. Jade looked up at me, her expression grim. Elena, I found something. An email exchange between Vanessa and someone whose account name is just a string of numbers. They were discussing strategies, how to make a frame-up look convincing. My hands were shaking. When was this sent? 3 months before your arrest. 3 months. They'd been planning this for 3 months while I smiled at Vanessa at company events, while I trusted Marcus, while I believed my life was solid and secure. The betrayal hit me all over again, fresh and sharp. But underneath the pain was something else. Vindication. I'd been right. This was a setup. And now we had proof. Except we didn't. Not really. Not yet. An email between Vanessa and an unknown person wasn't enough. We needed more. We needed to connect the dots, to build an airtight case that even the legal system couldn't ignore. Keep digging, I told Jade. Find everything. I don't care how long it takes. And dig? She did. Over the next several months, working in short bursts whenever it was safe, Jade excavated Vanessa Chen's digital life, piece by piece. She found deleted photos, recovered cloud backup files, traced IP addresses, and with each discovery, the picture became clearer and more damning. Vanessa had researched how to plant DNA evidence. She'd looked up videos on how to fake injuries. She'd studied security camera blind spots in her own building. This wasn't a woman who'd been attacked. This was a woman who'd methodically engineered a crime that never happened. But the most damning piece of evidence came on a rainy night 4 months into our investigation. Jade was scrolling through Vanessa's old cloud storage when she stopped suddenly, her face going pale. "What is it?" I asked, leaning closer. "An audio file," Jade whispered. "Dated 2 weeks before your arrest. It's labeled Practice." She hit play. And there, crackling through the phone's tiny speaker, was Vanessa's voice. Panicked, breathless, terrified. "Please, someone help me. She's trying to hurt me. Please, I'm pregnant. Please send someone." A pause. Then her voice again. Normal now. Calm. "No, that doesn't sound scared enough." Again, another pause. Then the panicked voice. "Help!" She broke in. "She has something in her hand. I'm pregnant, please." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. We were listening to Vanessa, rehearsing her 911 call, practicing her performance. This was proof, undeniable proof, that the entire attack had been fabricated. "We've got her," Jade said softly. "We've actually got her." But Vanessa wasn't the only one involved in my destruction. Marcus had to be pulling strings too. And Samira was determined to prove it. While Jade worked the digital angle, Samira focused on the money. She had me relay everything I knew about Marcus's business structure, his accounts, his investments. Then she started analyzing, connecting pieces, following trails that seemed to disappear, but always led somewhere if you knew where to look. What she found shocked even me. And I'd worked beside Marcus for years. "He's been cooking the books," Samira told me one day, her voice tight with barely contained excitement. "For at least 5 years, maybe longer. Offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, shell corporations, bribes to foreign officials to secure contracts, tax evasion on a massive scale. Elena, your husband isn't just a cheater, he's a criminal. A major one." I processed this slowly, but his company is thriving. The stock is rising. Everyone thinks he's brilliant, Because it's all smoke and mirrors, Samira said. He's been inflating property values, hiding debts, paying off inspectors to overlook safety violations. This empire he's built, it's a house of cards. One strong wind and the whole thing collapses. The pieces started fitting together in my mind. Marcus hadn't just framed me because of an affair. He'd framed me because I knew too much. I'd been his financial partner, his consultant. I'd helped structure deals, reviewed contracts. If I'd started looking closely, really looking, I might have noticed the irregularities. I might have asked questions. I might have become a threat. So, he removed me from the equation. Permanently. Or so he thought. Meanwhile, Bex was working her magic on the outside. My sister Maya had become our lifeline to the free world, and Bex guided her through a series of investigations that seemed impossible but somehow worked. Maya tracked down witnesses who'd seen me at that business dinner the night of the supposed attack, witnesses who'd been mysteriously unavailable during my trial. Under Bex's coaching, Maya got statements, time-stamped receipts, even security footage from the restaurant that proved I'd been miles away from Vanessa's apartment. Your husband's reach is extensive, Bex told me bluntly. He threatened some of these people, paid others off, made them too scared to come forward. But people's fear fades, and guilt is a powerful motivator. Some of them are ready to talk now. We also discovered that Vanessa had a history. Bex found 3 other men she'd been involved with over the past 6 years, men in positions of power. In each case, there were whispers of manipulation, lies, strategic pregnancies that never quite materialized. She was a professional homewrecker, a con artist who knew how to play men and situations to her advantage. And she'd set her sights on Marcus. But here's the question that haunted me as we built our case piece by piece in that prison cell. Had Marcus been a willing participant in destroying me, or had Vanessa manipulated him too? Was he the mastermind, or just another victim of her schemes? The answer came from an unexpected source. One of Bex's contacts managed to get close to Marcus's business partner, the man whose assistant Vanessa had been. After several drinks at a bar, loosened by alcohol and guilt, the man revealed something crucial. Vanessa had been sleeping with him too. She'd gotten pregnant. Told him the baby was his. Then when he refused to leave his wife, she'd moved on to Marcus. The pregnancy that was supposedly Marcus's child? There was no DNA test. No proof. Just Vanessa's word. And Marcus had believed her. He'd chosen her. And when she suggested a solution to their problem, when she proposed getting rid of his inconvenient wife, he'd gone along with it. No, Marcus wasn't a victim. He was a willing participant. A coward who'd chosen the easy, evil path rather than face the consequences of his affair like a man. That knowledge hardened something in me. Whatever sympathy I might have felt for him evaporated. He'd looked me in the eyes, the woman who'd loved him, supported him, built an empire with him, and decided I was disposable, not worthy of honesty, not even worthy of a divorce, just worthy of destruction. 22 months into my sentence, we had everything we needed. Emails proving premeditation. Audio of Vanessa practicing her fake 911 call. Financial records showing Marcus's fraud. Witness statements proving my alibi. Security footage that contradicted the prosecution's timeline. We had enough evidence to overturn my conviction and potentially send both Marcus and Vanessa to prison. The question was, what would I do with it? Iris, Samira, Jade, and Bex gathered in our cell one night, our contraband phone hidden away, and waited for me to decide. We take this to a lawyer, Samira said. file for an appeal, get you out of here, and then go to the media, Jade added. Expose everything publicly. Make sure the world knows what they did. Bex shook her head. If we expose Marcus's financial crimes now, he'll run. He's got those offshore accounts. He could disappear to a country without extradition before authorities can grab him. They all looked at me, waiting. I'd spent nearly 2 years in this cage, transformed from the trusting woman I'd once been into someone harder, colder, more calculating. I'd learned patience, strategy, how to think 10 steps ahead. And I'd learned something else too. Revenge isn't a dish best served hot or cold. It's best served when your enemy thinks they've won, when they're at the peak of their arrogance and power, when they have the furthest to fall. We get me out, I said slowly, the plan forming in my mind even as I spoke, but quietly. Very quietly. I don't want Marcus to know I'm free. I want him to think I'm still here, still broken, still no threat to him. Iris's eyes gleamed with understanding. You want to disappear. Exactly. I want to become a ghost. And while I'm a ghost, I want to watch him, study him, find every single crime he's committed, every dirty deal, every bribe, every fraud. I want to build a case so airtight that he won't just lose his freedom. He'll lose everything, his empire, his reputation, his fortune, everything. And Vanessa? Jade asked. My smile was not kind. She goes down with him. They destroyed my life together. They'll face justice together. Samira nodded slowly. It's risky. If he finds out you're out before we're ready, he won't, I interrupted, because I'll be patient. I'll wait for the perfect moment. And when I strike, it'll be so devastating he won't know what hit him. How long are we talking about? Bex asked. I thought about it. About Marcus out there, expanding his empire, probably getting engaged to Vanessa, living his best life while thinking I was rotting in prison. About the time I'd need to truly become someone he wouldn't recognize. To gather every piece of evidence, to coordinate with federal authorities, to plan his complete and total destruction. A year, I said. Maybe more. However long it takes to do this right. Iris laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Girl, you've learned well. Patience is the sharpest blade there is. We set the plan in motion. Jade worked her magic with the legal system's databases, creating a paper trail that showed my conviction being overturned due to new evidence, but keeping it buried under administrative red tape that wouldn't alert the media. Samira helped structure the release paperwork to make it look routine, unremarkable. Bex coordinated with Maya to have a safe house ready, somewhere remote where I could disappear completely. The day I walked out of that prison, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt focused, purposeful, like a weapon that had been forged in fire and was finally ready to be wielded. Maya was waiting in a nondescript car, tears streaming down her face when she saw me. We hugged for a long time, her body shaking with sobs, mine rigid with control. I'd learned not to cry in prison. Tears were weakness, and I couldn't afford weakness anymore. Where are we going? Maya asked as we drove away from the facility, the prison shrinking in the rearview mirror. Washington State, I told her. There's a cabin in the mountains. Remote, off the grid. Nobody knows about it. That's where I'll train, where I'll plan, where I'll become someone Marcus Ashford will never see coming. How long? She whispered. As long as it takes. The cabin was perfect. Isolated, surrounded by dense forest, with internet access, but no neighbors for miles. I spent the first few weeks just adjusting to freedom. The space, the silence, the ability to walk outside without walls closing in on me. But I didn't let myself get soft. Every morning I ran. I trained my body, building strength and endurance. I changed my appearance gradually. Different hair, different style. Even the way I carried myself became different. The old Elena had been soft, trusting, eager to please. This new Elena was none of those things. During the day, I studied Marcus's empire like a general studying enemy territory. I read every article about Ashford Global Properties, every financial report, every interview. I watched him on YouTube, giving speeches at business conferences, accepting awards, playing the role of the self-made titan. It made me sick, but it also made me focused. And I discovered something that sent a chill down my spine. Marcus was planning to take his company public. An IPO that would make him a billionaire. He was scheduled to ring the opening bell at the stock exchange in 14 months. He and Vanessa had even announced their engagement, planning a lavish party to coincide with the IPO launch. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Because that would be when he was at his highest point, his most confident, his most vulnerable. That would be when the fall would hurt the most. I coordinated anonymously with journalists who'd been investigating corporate fraud, feeding them breadcrumbs about Ashford Global Properties. I compiled evidence and sent it to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division through untraceable channels. I was careful, methodical, never revealing who I was or that I was free. As far as the world knew, Elena Morrison was still serving time for attacking her husband's pregnant mistress. Meanwhile, I watched Marcus and Vanessa play out their charade. Engagement photos in glossy magazines, interviews about overcoming tragedy and finding love. Vanessa showing off her baby bump in designer maternity wear, though I noticed she never posted about actually giving birth. The pregnancy seemed to stretch on impossibly long, and I wondered if there had ever really been a baby at all, or if that had been just another lie. 18 months passed. Then 20. I'd been free for nearly 2 years, but Marcus didn't know it. Nobody knew except Maya and my sisters from prison, who I kept in contact with through carefully encrypted channels. The FBI investigation I'd prompted was building momentum. They'd seized on the evidence I'd provided and were conducting their own audit of Marcus's empire. They didn't know I was their source. They thought it was a whistleblower still inside the company. But I was coordinating with them, providing additional documentation, helping them understand the scope of Marcus's fraud. And then, finally, everything aligned. Marcus's IPO was scheduled for a Tuesday in April. His engagement party to Vanessa was planned for the Saturday before. A massive affair at his penthouse, my old penthouse, with hundreds of guests from high society, business, and politics. The FBI had enough evidence to move. The journalists were ready to publish their exposes, and I was ready to step out of the shadows and watch everything burn. 3 days before the engagement party, I stood in front of the mirror in Maya's apartment, barely recognizing myself. I'd transformed completely. Stronger, sharper, harder. My appearance was different enough that casual acquaintances might not immediately recognize me, but Marcus would. Oh, Marcus would know exactly who I was the moment I walked through that door. Maya stood behind me, her face worried. Are you sure about this? Once you show yourself, there's no going back. I met her eyes in the mirror. I've been gone for 3 years. I've been dead to the world, to him, to everyone. The old Elena is gone. She died in that prison cell. This person, I gestured to my reflection. She's something new, something he created when he tried to destroy me, and she's going to destroy him right back. What if it doesn't work? What if It will work, I interrupted. Because I've planned for every contingency. Because I've been patient. Because I've done what he never thought I could do. I've survived, adapted, and evolved. He thinks I'm still in a cage. He's about to learn that the real cage was the empire he built on lies. And the walls are about to close in. I picked up the dress I'd chosen for the engagement party. Red, bold, impossible to ignore. A statement. "One more question," Maya said softly. "After all this, after you've destroyed him and gotten your justice, then what? What happens to you?" It was a good question. One I'd asked myself in the long, quiet nights in that mountain cabin. Revenge would be satisfying. Justice would be necessary. But would it heal me? Would it give me back the years they'd stolen? The trust they'd broken? The innocence they'd shattered? I don't know, I admitted. But I know I can't move forward until I finish this. Until they pay. Until the truth is out there. And the world knows what they did. After that, I shrugged. I'll figure it out. One step at a time. Maya hugged me tight. I'm proud of you. Terrified for you, but proud. You didn't break. You became steel. The night before the engagement party, I could barely sleep. Not from nerves. I was beyond that now. From anticipation. From the knowledge that everything I'd worked for, every hour spent in that prison investigating, every month spent in exile planning, was about to culminate in a single moment. I thought about Marcus, one last time, as the man I'd loved. Tried to remember the good parts, the moments of genuine connection. But all I could see was his face on that witness stand, his tears as he lied, his eyes avoiding mine as they led me away in chains. He'd made his choice. He'd chosen Vanessa, chosen his empire, chosen his freedom over my life. He'd calculated that I was expendable, that he could erase me and move on without consequences. Tomorrow, he'd learn how wrong he'd been. Tomorrow, the ghost of Elena Morrison would walk back into the world of the living. And when she did, Marcus Ashford's empire wouldn't just crack. It would crumble to dust. But here's what I want you to ask yourself. When someone destroys your life, when they take everything from you and leave you with nothing but pain and rage, how do you balance justice with mercy? How do you punish them without becoming the monster they tried to make you? And when you've spent years planning their destruction, when you finally have them at your mercy, will revenge be enough to fill the hole they carved in your heart? Because I was about to find out. The question that haunted me as I stood outside Marcus's penthouse that Saturday night wasn't whether I should go through with my plan. It was whether destroying him would destroy me too. Whether in becoming strong enough to tear down his empire, I'd lost the parts of myself worth saving. But I guess we only find out who we've become when we face the person who broke us. The penthouse was ablaze with light, music drifting out into the cool April evening. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see them. The glittering crowd of wealthy, powerful people who thought they were celebrating a love story. Marcus, in his tailored tuxedo, shaking hands and accepting congratulations. Vanessa in white, playing the blushing bride-to-be, her hand resting on a belly that I now knew had never carried a child. The pregnancy had been faked, another lie in a tower of lies. She'd worn padding, posted carefully angled photos, and then quietly claimed a miscarriage once I was safely behind bars and no longer a threat. I stood on the street below, wearing that red dress like armor, and felt absolutely nothing. No nervousness, no doubt, just a cold, crystalline certainty that the next hour would change everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Maya. The FBI is in position. Journalists have the story ready to publish. It's all happening. Are you ready? I typed back one word. Yes. Another text. This one from Jade. We're watching. Whatever happens, we've got your back. My sisters, my team, the women who'd saved me when I couldn't save myself. They were scattered across the city now, released on good behavior or finished sentences, monitoring everything from coffee shops and safe houses, making sure every piece of our plan fell into place. I wasn't alone anymore. I'd never be alone again. I walked into the building like I owned it. The doorman's eyes went wide when he recognized me, or thought he recognized me, confusion flickering across his face. I smiled at him, a smile that wasn't friendly but wasn't cruel either, just knowing. Good evening, Richard, I said, remembering his name from years ago when this had been my home. I'm here for the party. He stammered something, reaching for his phone, probably to call security. But I was already moving past him to the private elevator, the one that went straight to the penthouse, the one I still had the code for, because Marcus had never changed it. Arrogant, careless, confident that I was safely locked away and no threat to his perfect new life. The elevator rose smoothly, and I watched the numbers climb. 10th floor, 20th, 30th. With each passing floor, I felt myself shedding something. The last vestiges of the woman who'd loved Marcus Ashford, who'd trusted him, who'd believed in fairy tales and happy endings. That woman was gone. I was someone else now. Someone forged in betrayal and tempered by rage and sharpened by patience. The elevator doors opened directly into the penthouse, into a wall of sound and light and expensive perfume. For a moment, nobody noticed me. They were too busy laughing, drinking champagne that probably costs more per bottle than most people made in a week, celebrating a union built on murder. Because that's what they'd done, really. They'd murdered Elena Morrison, the woman I'd been, even if my body kept walking around. But then someone saw me, a woman in diamonds whose name I couldn't remember. Her glass stopped halfway to her lips, her eyes going wide. She whispered something to the man next to her. He turned, stared. The ripple effect spread through the crowd like a stone dropped in still water. Conversations died mid-sentence. Laughter cut off. The music seemed to fade into the background. And then the crowd parted. And there he was. Marcus, my husband, my betrayer, the man who'd sworn to love and protect me before he'd destroyed my life to save his own skin. He looked good. Damn him. He looked good. Success agreed with him. The tuxedo perfectly tailored, his hairstyle just right, that confident posture of a man who'd conquered the world. But as his eyes met mine across the room, I watched the color drain from his face, watched his mouth fall open, watched the crystal champagne flute slip from his fingers and shatter on the marble floor, the sound unnaturally loud in the sudden silence. "Hello, Marcus," I said, my voice carrying clearly across the room. Not loud, not aggressive, just present, undeniable. Surprised to see me? He couldn't speak, could barely breathe, just stared at me like I was a ghost, which I suppose I was, the ghost of his guilty conscience, made flesh. Then Vanessa appeared at his side, drawn by the commotion. She took one look at me and actually stumbled backward, her face going white beneath her carefully applied makeup. She grabbed Marcus's arm, her perfectly manicured nails digging into his sleeve. That's not possible," she whispered, but it was loud enough for people nearby to hear. "She's supposed to be in prison?" I finished for her, taking a step forward into the room. The crowd instinctively moved back, creating a clear path between us. Serving 8 years for attacking you, for trying to hurt your baby? I let my gaze drop deliberately to her flat stomach beneath the white dress. Except there never was a baby, was there, Vanessa? Just padding and lies and carefully angled photos. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Phones came out. Of course they did. This was too good, too dramatic. The disgraced wife returned from the dead to confront her replacement at an engagement party. This would be all over social media within minutes. Perfect. I was counting on it. Marcus finally found his voice. Elena. He croaked, then tried again. Stronger. Elena, what are you doing here? How are you? When did you get out of prison? I supplied helpfully. Almost 2 years ago, actually. My conviction was overturned. Turns out, all that evidence against me was planted, fabricated, created by someone who wanted me out of the way. I looked directly at Vanessa, someone who researched how to fake an attack, who practiced her terrified nineness. One call, who carefully staged a crime scene to frame an innocent woman. Vanessa's face went from white to red. That's insane. You're insane. Everyone knows what you did to me. I pulled out my phone, and the room went silent again. See, that's the beautiful thing about the digital age. Nothing ever really disappears. Not emails, not browser histories, not audio files. I tapped my screen, and Vanessa's voice filled the room, panicked and breathless. Please, someone help me. She's trying to hurt me. A pause. Then her normal voice. No, that doesn't sound scared enough. Again, the effect was electric. Shocked gasps. Furious. Muttering. I watched the crowd's opinion shift in real time. Watched doubt and then disgust bloom on their faces as they looked at Vanessa. You recorded. That's illegal. Vanessa shrieked, her composure completely shattered. You can't. Actually, I can, I said calmly, because it was recovered as evidence in a criminal investigation. An investigation that's been ongoing for the past 2 years. An investigation that's about to culminate in arrests. Marcus stepped forward, his face a mask of desperation. Elena, please, whatever you think happened. What I think happened? I laughed. And it wasn't a kind sound. Marcus, I know what happened. I know everything. I know about the offshore accounts, the shell corporations, the bribes to foreign officials, the tax evasion, the fraud. I know that your empire, this beautiful, successful, admired empire, is built on a foundation of crime. Now, the crowd was really muttering. I could see investors, business partners, people whose money was tied up in Ashford Global Properties, starting to panic. That's a lie, Marcus said, but his voice lacked conviction. You're bitter. You're angry. I understand that. But making false accusations. Oh, I'm not making accusations, I interrupted. I'm stating facts. Facts that I've spent 2 years gathering. Facts that I've already provided to the FBI. I checked my watch. A new one. Simple and elegant. Nothing like the expensive pieces I used to wear when I was his wife. In fact, as we speak, federal agents are raiding your offices in 12 cities worldwide. They're seizing computers, files, financial records. Everything you tried so hard to hide. The color drained from Marcus's face again. Behind him, I saw several men in expensive suits heading quickly for the exits. Rats fleeing a sinking ship. You're bluffing, Vanessa hissed. You're just a jealous ex-wife, trying to ruin. I held up my phone again, showing the screen to the room. News alerts were already flashing. FBI raids Ashford Global Properties offices. Massive fraud investigation underway. Real estate mogul Marcus Ashford under federal investigation. The room erupted. People shouting questions, pulling out their own phones, demanding explanations. Several investors were already on their phones, probably calling their lawyers. The celebration had turned into chaos in a matter of minutes. But I wasn't done. Not yet. 3 years ago, I said, raising my voice to be heard over the commotion, I stood in a courtroom and watched my life being destroyed. I listened to my husband testify against me, lie about me, help send me to prison for a crime I didn't commit. I lost everything. My freedom, my reputation, my business, my home. I gestured around the penthouse, my old home. I spent 2 years in a cage while you two lived in luxury. Celebrated your love story. Prepared for your big IPO. My voice didn't shake. Didn't waver. I practiced this moment in my head 1,000 times. But prison taught me something valuable. It taught me patience. It taught me that the best revenge isn't hot or cold. It's calculated. It's waiting for the perfect moment when your enemy is at their highest point, they're most confident, they're most vulnerable. And then you strike. I walked closer to Marcus and Vanessa, and they actually backed up, fear clear on their faces. Your IPO was supposed to happen Tuesday, I said softly. My voice now meant just for them, though the room was silent enough that everyone could hear. You were going to ring the opening bell at the stock exchange, become a billionaire, cement your legacy. But that's not going to happen now, because every investor just saw the news. Because your company is about to be dismantled by federal prosecutors. Because everything you built on lies and fraud and my destroyed life is crumbling right now. This very second, Marcus fell to his knees. Actually fell to his knees in front of me. In front of all these people. Tears streamed down his face. Real ones this time. Not the crocodile tears he'd produced on the witness stand. Elena, please, he begged, his voice breaking. Please. I'm sorry. I was scared. I made a terrible mistake. I never meant for it to go this far. I never wanted to hurt you. We can fix this. We can. I still love you. I never stopped loving you. And that's when I felt it. Not satisfaction. Not triumph. Just a vast, echoing emptiness where my love for him used to live. I looked down at this man who'd once been my whole world, and I felt nothing. No love, no hate, just a kind of distant pity for how small he'd become. Love? I said quietly, crouching down so we were eye to eye. You don't know the first thing about love, Marcus. Love doesn't betray. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't send someone to prison to save itself. You threw away something real, something valuable, because you were too weak and too selfish to face the consequences of your own choices. I stood up, looking down at him. But here's the thing you never understood. I'm stronger than you ever were. I survived what you tried to do to me. I came back from it. And now I'm going to watch you face the consequences you tried so hard to avoid. That's when the front door burst open, and FBI agents flooded into the penthouse. 6 of them, led by a stern-looking woman in a dark suit. Marcus Ashford, she said, holding up her badge. I'm Special Agent Chen with the FBI. You're under arrest for wire fraud, money laundering, conspiracy, and a list of other charges. We'll detail at the federal building. 2 agents pulled Marcus to his feet and cuffed his hands behind his back. He was openly sobbing now, all pretense of dignity gone. Another agent approached Vanessa, who tried to run, literally tried to bolt for the private elevator. But an agent caught her before she made it 3 steps. Vanessa Chen, you're under arrest for perjury, conspiracy to commit fraud, and filing a false police report. No, Vanessa screamed as they cuffed her. This is insane. I didn't do anything. She's the criminal. She attacked me. Agent Chen looked at me, a slight smile on her professional face. Ms. Morrison, thank you for your cooperation in this investigation. Your evidence was invaluable. I nodded. Thank you for believing me. As the agents began leading Marcus and Vanessa toward the elevator, Marcus turned back one last time. Our eyes met, and I saw the moment he finally understood. This wasn't just about revenge. This was about justice, about truth, about making sure that people who destroy others' lives face consequences. The day I was set free, I said to him, my voice carrying across the silent room, was the day your empire began to fall. You wanted me gone, Marcus. You wanted me erased. And I disappeared. But not the way you thought. I became something you never anticipated. Someone you couldn't control, or manipulate, or destroy. And now I'm here to watch it all crumble. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something. But what was there to say? The agents pushed him forward into the elevator. Vanessa was still screaming, hurling accusations and threats. But the elevator doors closed on them both, and they were gone. The penthouse erupted again. Everyone talking at once. Phones everywhere. The party thoroughly destroyed. I walked through the chaos to the balcony, needing air, needing space. The city spread out below me, lights twinkling like stars. This had been my view once, when this was my home, when I was Marcus's wife, when I thought I understood what my life was. That felt like a lifetime ago, a different person entirely. Maya found me there a few minutes later, wrapping her arms around me from behind. You did it, she whispered. It's over. But was it? I'd gotten my justice. Marcus and Vanessa would face trial. And with the evidence we'd gathered, they'd be convicted. His empire was collapsing. The IPO canceled, investors fleeing, the fraud exposed. Everything I'd worked for had come to pass. I should feel victorious, satisfied, complete. Instead, I just felt tired and empty and strangely sad. Come on, Maya said gently. Let's get you out of here. We left through the chaos, past gawking guests and flashing cameras. By morning, I knew my story would be everywhere. The wife who brought down an empire. Woman wrongly imprisoned exposes husband's massive fraud. The media would love it. The drama, the betrayal, the revenge. But I didn't want to be a symbol or a headline. I just wanted to be Elena again. Whoever Elena was. Now. The legal proceedings moved quickly after that, with the mountain of evidence we'd provided. Prosecutors had an airtight case. Marcus was convicted on 17 counts of fraud and conspiracy and sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. Vanessa got 18 years for her role in framing me and covering up the fraud. I testified at both trials, calm and factual, watching them face the same justice system they'd weaponized against me. I was formally exonerated, the governor issuing a public apology for the miscarriage of justice. The state offered me a settlement, several $millions for my wrongful imprisonment. I took it, not because money could return what they'd stolen, but because I needed resources for what came next. But here's what nobody tells you about revenge. Even when it works perfectly, even when you get everything you wanted, it doesn't heal the wound. It doesn't erase the trauma or return the lost years. It doesn't make you the person you were before. I spent weeks after the trials feeling adrift. Justice had been served, but I didn't know who I was anymore. Not Marcus's wife, not a prisoner, not the vengeful ghost I'd become in exile. Just Elena. And I had to figure out what that meant. The answer came from an unexpected place. Iris reached out to me a month after the trials ended. She'd been released on parole and was struggling to find her footing in the world. We met for coffee, and she looked smaller somehow outside of prison, vulnerable in a way she'd never been inside. "I don't know how to do this," she admitted, stirring her coffee without drinking it. "How to live out here. How to trust people. How to be normal." I understood that feeling completely. And in that moment, I realized something. I wasn't the only one who needed healing. There were thousands of women like Iris, like Samira and Jade and Bex, who'd been chewed up by a system that failed them and spit out into a world that didn't want them. What if I could help? That's how Second Chance Partners was born. I used part of my settlement to start an organization dedicated to helping wrongfully convicted people and those victimized by injustice. Iris became my co-founder. Samira handled the finances. Jade ran our digital investigations. Bex managed our private investigation arm. Together, we became a force for justice, helping exonerate the innocent and expose the corrupt. Every person we freed felt like reclaiming a piece of my own soul. Every fraud we uncovered, every injustice we corrected, it gave my suffering purpose. It transformed my pain into something that helped others. And slowly, piece by piece, I started to feel whole again. I moved away from the city to a small town near the mountains, buying a modest house with a view of pine trees and open sky. Maya visited often, and my sisters from prison became regular fixtures in my life. I adopted a rescue dog I named Justice, who made me laugh when I'd forgotten I could. I started therapy, working through the trauma, the nightmares, the hypervigilance that came from years of betrayal and imprisonment. And then, 2 years after that night at the penthouse, I met Daniel at a conference about criminal justice reform. He was a therapist who worked with trauma survivors, soft-spoken and patient, with kind eyes that reminded me that not everyone wanted to hurt me. We talked for hours over coffee that first day, then dinner the next week, then regular conversations that grew into something deeper. I was terrified. If I'm honest, the idea of trusting someone with my heart again felt impossible. But Daniel was patient. He understood my scars, respected my boundaries, gave me space to heal at my own pace. Slowly, carefully, I let my guard down, let myself feel again, let myself love again. 3 years after Marcus's arrest, Daniel and I got married in a simple ceremony in my backyard, surrounded by Maya, my sisters from prison, and a handful of close friends. It wasn't the elaborate society wedding I'd had with Marcus. It was small and genuine and real. When Daniel kissed me, I didn't think about Marcus or Vanessa or prisons or revenge. I just felt happy, present, free. That evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sun set over the mountains, Daniel asked me a question. "Do you regret it?" Any of it? I thought about it carefully. Did I regret loving Marcus? No, that love had been real at the time, even if it was built on illusions. Did I regret the path I'd taken to justice? The months planning revenge? The dramatic confrontation? The satisfaction of watching his empire crumble? I don't regret getting justice. I said slowly, I don't regret exposing the truth. But I learned something important. Revenge can give you justice, but it can't give you peace. That has to come from somewhere else. From healing. From building something new. From learning to trust and love again. Daniel squeezed my hand. So where are you now? Peace, or still searching for it? I looked around at my life. The home I'd built. The work that gave me purpose. The people who loved me. The man beside me who saw all my scars and loved me anyway. It wasn't the life I'd imagined at 24 when I married Marcus. It wasn't the fairy tale I'd believed in. But it was mine. Built on truth and strength and genuine connection. I think I'm getting there, I said. Finally. So here's what I want you to understand. Betrayal can break you. Injustice can destroy you. But if you refuse to stay broken, if you find the strength to fight back and the courage to heal, you can rebuild yourself into something stronger than you were before. Not despite what happened to you, but incorporating it, learning from it, using it as fuel to become someone remarkable. My story isn't really about revenge, though that's what the headline said. It's about survival. It's about transformation. It's about refusing to let the worst thing that ever happened to you define who you become. Marcus and Vanessa tried to erase me, but instead they forged me into someone unbreakable. Someone who could take pain and turn it into purpose. Someone who could help others facing similar darkness find their way to light. 3 years ago, I was a woman who'd lost everything. Today, I'm someone who helps others reclaim their lives. I have love, purpose, dignity, and freedom. And that, not watching Marcus led away in handcuffs, not seeing his empire collapse, not any moment of revenge, that is my greatest triumph. Because in the end, the best revenge isn't destroying your enemy. It's building a life so good, so meaningful, so full of genuine joy that they become irrelevant. It's becoming someone better than they ever could have imagined. It's winning, not by dragging them down, but by rising higher than they ever tried to push you. So I'll ask you one final question, the one that matters most. When life tries to break you, when someone betrays you, when the world seems stacked against you, will you let that define you? Or will you use it to discover just how strong you really are? Now it's your turn. I want to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever faced a betrayal that changed your life? How did you find the strength to move forward? And what would you do if you had the chance to confront the person who hurt you most? Share your story below. Because maybe, like me, you'll find that speaking your truth is the first step toward healing. And if this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because every week I share real stories about people who faced the impossible and found a way through. Your story matters. Your voice matters. And you're stronger than you know.
Thank you so much for watching. And if you love American stories, subscribe, like, and comment what you want me to do next.